Hello. If you are watching this video, it means that you have done everything necessary to your box. So you filled out this sheet of paper telling you how long to cut your end pieces, and you have then moved on to this sheet of paper telling you how big your bottom should be. And you are ready to start to dry fitting. Okay, you can see my bottom in there. This is dry fitted right now. It means that there's no glue on it. I've just got clamps on it so that I can make sure that everything is all square before I do put glue on it. Because if you go straight to gluing and clamping and you realize that your stuff is not square or it's not the right size, it's kind of too late at that point. I mean, you can take the clamps off while it's just glue on there, but after you use the air nailer and put nails in it, you're kind of stuck where it's at. So we always do a dry fit. So things that you're going to need for this process, for dry fitting and for gluing, you'll need a couple of quick grip clamps. I grabbed the little ones. They're over at the glue table, like right behind the glue table. You will need glue. I like to grab a wet paper towel just in case there's any glue squirt out anywhere that we don't want it. Square. I like these adjustable squares so that these just tend to stay in squaredness much better than the other squares. If you drop those ones, sometimes they get out of squaredness, so I do like these better. You'll need one of these black clamps, which are in the tool room. They are usually all wound up together with these little straps kind of wound up around it. In the tool room on one of the shelves, you just got to look for them. I think I only have 4, so if all 4 are being used, you might have to just go with quick grip clamps. Not a big deal. But I do have 3 quick grip clamps here. You may need more than that. You might not need 3 at all. What else? Oh, and then you also need the air nailer. So first things first is you want to get everything dry clamped together. And you want the grain of your bottom, so mine is square, so it's really, for me, it doesn't matter because either way could be my long way or my wide way, but you want the length of your bottom, so the grain of the bottom piece that's in there going with your side pieces. And I already talked about that in the previous sheet. So, and then you also just, again, double check and make sure, it's hard to tell, but mine is a little wiggly in there, and it should be, because you want it to be able to expand and contract with the weather. If it's not, you're gonna have to go trim it down before you start dry clamping it and everything. If it's too big, it's gonna push your sides out and your ends out at the bottom. So I started, and this is usually easier with a partner. So maybe you wanna help somebody and then they help you with yours. But so these clamps right here, this black one, some of them are kind of, you got to be gentle with it because like this one is missing a little tab here and then this piece tends to fall off. So what you do to get these to work is there's a little red tab here and you've got to kind of hold it up if you want to pull this strap tighter or pull it looser to be able to fit around your box. Once it's around your box, you pull this tab down so you can't move that strap anymore, and then you turn the handle to lock it into place. All right, so I got it back on there. I'm just gonna pull this tab down so I can't move that strap anymore, and just go ahead and turn my handle until it's nice and snug on there. Just like the gluing clamps, you should have this turned out all the way because I just went to go tighten it more and there's no more slack left in it. So I'm actually gonna have to untighten it and then pull my strap tighter so that I can get a nice clean clamp on it. Okay, and then on the bottom, I have just the 2 quick grip clamps from end to end to squeeze those into my side pieces. And if you have a tall box like this, I would suggest doing this. Some of you have shorter boxes, so you don't need to do that. It really all depends on what you think you need to do for your box. All right, so we got this all figured out. Once I have, I'm gonna scooch this up closer to the top because I've already got clamps on the bottom, clamping it down there. Once I have this all nice and tight and I think I'm good to go, I'm gonna check for squaredness with my square. And you know what? I'm gonna teach you guys how to use these because but Mrs. Johnson, that's so dumb. Everyone should know how to use it. No, that's not true, because what happens is people undo the screw and then they either lose the screw part or they lose the little metal part that goes inside of it. So if you unscrew it too much, you can pull this whole thing out. Please don't do that. That's super annoying because that's how we lose stuff. I see people all the time trying to figure out how in the world to put the ruler back in once it's out. And let's see if I can show you. Okay, so there is, see if you can see it. It's really hard to see. Okay, there we go. See that little tab on the little metal piece sticking up right there? That little tab needs to sit inside of the tab of the ruler. Okay, so some people don't do this correctly and they try and put the flat side to the tab part. Well, obviously that's not going to work. That tab right there is meant to sit inside of this little groove on the ruler. So you push this up as far as you need to be able to slide the ruler in. And then get that groove to line up with the ruler. And of course, now that I'm on camera, it's being a booger. Okay, so, and I just had it. So you're gonna get that tab to line up with the ruler, and then you won't be able to pull it out anymore. Okay, and then you go ahead and just tighten this up. Now to be able to check the inside, I need to have this ruler part sitting inside the black piece. If it's outside the black piece, I'm not going to be able to get this inside my box. We do need to check the inside of the box because the outside of your box, some of you may have your tabs may be sticking out a little bit too far, and so it's going to be really hard to check the outside of your box for squareness. So all you're going to do is put the ruler inside, and so yesterday when I did this, my box was nice and square, and now you can see that I'm flat with the black thing, and then I've got a gap right there. So what may have happened is I may have over tightened my clamp a little bit. So that's a really easy fix, right? I'm gonna try undoing this a little bit, and we'll see if that fixed it. This is good that this happened so I can show you. Okay, that did not fix it. So then what we can do, why I have that extra quick grip clamp, is so that I can do this with it. So what I did was I just squeezed the corners in a little bit. You can see I am flat there now. And I might need just one more squeeze to make sure that that's nice and flat against there. But it did fix it, okay? And then once you've got that all square, you're gonna go ahead and check the rest of your corners. And I am a little off there as well, so I will just keep doing this whole quick grip squeezy method until all 4 of my corners are square. If you do not get them square with this method, what's probably happening is maybe this is a little bit deeper or too far in as opposed to this one. So double check that. And maybe your pieces aren't exactly the same size. Maybe this end piece is a little bit longer than this end piece. So double check that as well. Because if your pieces are not exactly the same, they're not gonna line up correctly and be square. Why is it important for it to be square? Well, anytime in woodworking, things are very important to be square, because if one thing is not square, the next thing isn't gonna be square and it's not gonna go together properly. So in this example, our lid is not going to be square and it's not going to fit on here properly. When we do our nightstand, if our box of our nightstand is not square, then the rest of it is not going to be square. If we end up deciding to do a drawer or a door with it, or we put the top on it, nothing is going to end up fitting well together. Okay, now that I've checked to make sure everything is square, we are going to start adding glue to it. So all I did was took the clamps off and then just kind of laid everything out like this. That way you don't lose track of anything. Please do not have your pieces sprawled all over the place, or else you're going to put it together a different way than you put it together the first time, and then maybe things aren't going to end up being square again. The point of a dry fit is to put it together exactly the way that you dry fit it, so that you know that things are gonna go back the same way. Now we are only gonna put glue on our side pieces right here. I squiggled it in, and now I'm gonna take my finger and kind of smoosh it all over the place. There's that word again. So I'm gonna show you what it should look like, because there's some areas that we don't want glue getting into. All right, so I really don't want it to get up in this area right here, because what's going to happen is once I put it together, it's going to squeeze the glue to the inside of the corner of my box, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get that out of there without leaving glue marks everywhere. Basically impossible. So I wiped this with my finger, I smooshed it in there. And then what I also did was I added a little extra daub of glue in here. I just kind of squeezed a little line. That way it'll kind of squeeze up, but not too much, okay? I also kind of removed it from this area right here where your bottom is gonna fit in, because we don't want our bottom glued in. We want it to be able to move freely. All right, so I got everything glued up. And I actually found, I forgot I bought these. They're called Clampets. And they're in a little package like this. There's 4 in a package. They are not gonna work if you have a very skinny board, because these are for a 3/4 inch board. So I just threw these on here and then kind of reclamped everything. It was a little off, so I threw another clamp on top like this, and then it wasn't clamping very well on the bottom, so I actually put a couple more down there. So there's lots of clamps on here right now, and you guys might need that many as well. No big deal if you do. But then we're going to, after you get it clamped like this, you are going to use the nail gun, and I'm going to talk about that next, to nail it together. And then once it's set for, I don't know, like 10 minutes, 20 minutes if it's pretty out of squareness, I would say, you can take the clamps off and let somebody else use it. All right, so a couple of things you need to know about the air nailer. Please, whether it is attached to the air hose or not, do not be aiming this at people, okay? Treat every gun as if it is loaded, whether it's an air nailer or an actual gun. And then, you know, I mean, there are some times where you're moving it around and stuff, but just don't ever actually like go and point it at somebody and pretend to shoot. That is never okay. This one does have the safety on it, which is this little tip right here. So when this yellow thing is being depressed into the wood and I pull the trigger with my finger, it will shoot a nail out. Now it's not going to right now because the safety is not being pushed down. This particular air nailer is oilless, so a lot of air nailers you have to squirt a drop of oil into this little hole right here, a drop or two, before you start air nailing. This one does not require you to do that. And for those of you that don't know, in order to connect these, you have to pull this little collar down and then push it in and let the collar come back up before you let go of it. Now it's connected. The biggest thing on here is, so the nails go in here. If you know how to load this, you can go ahead and, so you load it from the back, you put nails in. I would actually prefer you not to though, because I have a lot of different size nails around. Unless I specifically say yes, you can go ahead and load it. But they go in this back part right here. And then this, it has to be, this little black thing has to sit on the back of the nails right there. If I pull this back and do that, there's nothing holding the nails in place. Okay, so I've got to pull this back, and then that black thing has to sit right there. Okay, the way that you kind of check to see if it's at a good air pressure for the type of wood that you're using, because some of you have softwood that you're nailing into, some of you have hardwood, some of you have a mix of both. So we're gonna have some random boards kind of sitting over by the glue table on that machine over there, the radial arm saw that we don't use. And we'll just have like some random cherry and oak and pine that you can test this out on before you test it in your box. because if your nail doesn't sit all the way inside your wood, you're gonna have a nail sticking out, which is ugly. And then you're gonna have to try and use a nail set to nail it in, and it doesn't always go exactly as planned. So you wanna check and make sure that the air pressure is set correctly for the type of wood that you're nailing into. So as you can see, the pressure is set pretty good for, this is a pine board right here, or some sort of softwood. And I did another one down here, and both times it nailed in good. It pushed it in far enough. The cherry board, which is a little bit harder, you can see the nail head, but it is still sitting below the surface, so that's still okay. And then this is the same pressure, air pressure. I haven't changed air pressure at all. You can look on this oak board. They are sitting up above the surface of the oak. So, and this is harder than the other two, so that's why it's doing that. So you want to make sure that when you're testing the nail gun, you test it on the exact piece of wood that you have in your box. So if you need to change the air pressure at all, I believe it has to be connected to the air hose when you do this. But there's a little dial by the trigger, and you can see if I turn it that way, it means that I'm putting less air pressure in, and it's going to stick up. It's not going to put as much pressure on the nail, and so it's going to, put it either above the surface or just below the surface, depending on the wood that you're using. If you need more air pressure to sink it down lower, you're going to turn it towards me, okay? And this dial just moves. And basically that's all you need to know about this for setting it up. And then again, make sure you're not pointing it at anybody. And when you go to nail, okay, I don't want it off to the side at all, because then I'm going to nail into the inside of my box, or it's gonna go outside of my box, and then it's not gonna look very good, right? And then also same thing this way, okay? I want it straight up and down like this, and straight up and down like this, okay? Shouldn't be tilted in either way. When you are going to nail, you also, you're gonna nail into your side pieces. So into your side and then into your end. Okay, I don't want my hand right here. Turn this so you can see. Okay, I'm nailing here. I don't want my hand right here. If I accidentally have this tilted at this angle and it shoots out the side of my box, guess where it's going? Right into my finger. So your fingers need to be very far away from wherever, like I can hang onto this up here, it's not gonna get me up here, but your fingers need to be very far away from wherever your nail gun is going into. All right, so just for demonstration purposes, I've kind of marked where my edge piece goes to. You can do this if you want, you don't need to mark it, but if it's gonna help you visually see where you need to nail, so then I just kind of made a mark right here. I didn't measure, I just eyeballed everything. But this is about where you want your nail gun to sit. If I'm too far over here, it's gonna blow into the inside of my box. If I'm too far on this side, it's gonna blow to the outside of my box. So we don't want either of those things happening. Another thing is you don't need 1,000 nails going up and down the edge of this thing, okay? Just like one here, one here, one here, and one up here is plenty. Or maybe even 3, okay? I don't need any more than 4 for sure. And then you want to probably try and avoid putting it right on the seams of your wood. You don't want to blow it apart that way. If when you were gluing, maybe you didn't put enough glue in or whatever, you don't want to blow it apart at the seam. Okay, so like I said, visually, if you want to make a mark all the way down, you can. You can see that I am not good at drawing a straight line right now. But maybe you can only, because your clamps are in the way, maybe you could only get those two and then you have to wait until after the clamps are off to get like this bottom one and this top one up here. Okay, that's all right too, but at least do a couple. I did 2 over here already, and then I'll do a couple on the other sides, and then I can take the clamps off and we'll be good to go. Okay, so again, make sure your hand is not in the way. Okay, it's hard to see right now, but like my hand is up here. I'm not holding it over here as I'm nailing. Okay, and then I'm going to get it nice and straight. Away. It's aiming straight on to my box, and then as soon as I pull the trigger, a nail is going to come out. Okay. So now that I have those 4 done, I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. All right, so you can see I've got the whole thing done here. And for demonstration purposes, haha, I blew it out the side. So what you would want to do here is grab a pair of pliers from the back and pull your nail up, and probably grab one of the side clippers, clip it off, and then we'll just have to end up filling this in with a little bit of sawdust and glue. So it's not the end of the world. It's just kind of a pain to fix, but you can see how I got way too close to the edge there and it blew it out the side. So one thing to keep in mind, a reminder, it may look like it's coming out closer to this yellow tip here, but it's not. It's coming out of this silver tip. Okay, so like I said, you may want to make that mark just so you don't accidentally blow it out the side. Okay, but there's my bottom. It's hard to see, but that does wiggle, so that's good. And everything should be nice and square, and I'm ready to move on to making my top for this.